What's up, YouTube? This is CJ.
And Sarah.
It's a Wednesday, and that means it's time for another Keto
Conversation.
So let's get started. So tonight we're going to talk about sweeteners.
Yes.
We're going to talk about
artificial and
natural sweeteners. We're going to just kind of give you some education about stuff that we use, how we use them in our daily lives and on keto. We are not going to talk about a lot about Glycemic Index, although we might cover some of it because we have some notes and we have
an article that
we're referencing where they actually do talk about some of that. But we just want to let you know that we did a similar video related to fats.
Yes.
Different types of fats.
And it's just educational as to what we use personally. Yeah. This is not a is it good, is it bad type of video. This is just strictly an educational for what we use in our personal lives and why.
Right. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Let's get started.
We use a lot of these products. We talk a lot about a lot of these products in our recipes, and so we thought, well, we'll kind of talk about what we use, why we use what for what, and...
Okay, so let's start with the artificial sweeteners.
So these aren't artificial sweeteners.
Those are natural. And I have been informed by many helpful subscribers that sugar alcohols are not artificial sweeteners. They are sugar alcohols, and they are considered natural sweeteners or sweetener alternatives.
So your sugar alcohols are
considered, all your tols, erythritol, xylitol. Stevia is considered a natural sweetener.
Right.
Allulose is considered a natural sweetener, and we'll get into all of those. But right now we're going to talk about some things that are more along the artificial sweetener line. Now, Truvia kind of fits in with these natural sweeteners. So, the artificial sweetener that we use in our particular life is Splenda. When we do use an artificial sweetener, it's generally Splenda or sucralose. And it comes in different forms. We have the squeezy form, which you're probably familiar with. You either put squeezes or drops to your taste tolerance, and it's just Splenda Zero. Store brands make sucralose squeezy sweeteners, so you don't have to buy the Splenda brand.
Right.
Now, we do not generally use Splenda that comes in a powdered form because a lot of artificial sweeteners and even natural sweeteners that come in a powdered form in little packets and things like that are usually bound with dextrose, and dextrose is a type of sugar, and so we don't generally do that because it can react in your body like sugar. So when we use Splenda, we order ours off of Amazon, and it generally comes from Europe. We first discovered this when we were in Canada a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we like the Splenda minis, and it comes in a little container. Sometimes you can get a 2-pack, and when it dispenses, it's just a little teeny tiny, I don't know if you can even see it, teeny tiny little bead. And these happen to be bound with lactose. So they are bound with a milk sugar that is similar to what you would find in heavy whipping cream. So it doesn't have the glucose effect in your body that something bound with dextrose would have. So I generally like to use these in my coffee. Sometimes CJ will use them in his seltzers or things that he wants to add a bit of sweetness to. And each little mini is a half a packet equivalent of a Splenda product.
Right. And so you see me, I'm listening to you, but I'm also kind of trying to, we had done some research on this before we started. So there's an article we're going to link to from the folks who put out the book Eat This, Not That. It's a pretty good breakdown of different artificial sweeteners, just sweeteners in general. It also talks about how the glycemic index and how it affects that.
And some people don't like using Splenda. Some people love Splenda. I'm of the school of thought that whatever works for you. We don't use it in everything. We don't use it in a lot of baking or things like that. It's mostly just some of our beverages and things. Another thing that I use that has sucralose as the sweetener is my coffee syrups. Any of the sugar-free coffee syrups. I usually do Torani. Occasionally, if I go through a Starbucks drive-thru, I usually get the cinnamon dolce flavor because it has sucralose in it and not maltitol or mannitol like the vanilla sugar-free sweetener. So just be aware if you go through Starbucks and you use the vanilla sweetener that it does have maltitol in it, and that the cinnamon dolce is the only sugar-free one that just has the sucralose. So all the Torani syrups that I like to use occasionally in my Greek frappes, or sometimes I'll make Italian sodas for CJ or his daughter, and we use the sugar-free Torani, and it has sucralose or Splenda as its sweetener. So those are the artificial sweeteners we use. Occasionally, if we do go somewhere to a restaurant or something like that, and we order a diet soda, most of your diet sodas nowadays still have aspartame in them as the artificial sweetener, and so we will occasionally have something with aspartame in it, but it's not. I don't purchase aspartame.
Yeah, and we try to limit that.
Yeah. Usually, if we drink soda, it's like I said, when we go out or weekends or things like that.
So I wanted, as you were talking about Splenda. So Splenda has been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
It's supposed to have zero effect on the, as far as glycemic index. It's supposed to be a zero, and how your body reacts to it. It's not supposed to react like sugar, although it is sweet. Of course, there is debate in the keto community about that, and just the scientific community about it as well. But it has been around for quite some time.
Right. And a lot of studies that they do are done on rats, now that we're metabolically similar to rats, but coupled with the fact that most times when they're doing testing, they're using a gross amount of product, like an extreme amount of sweetener. So you'd have to consume massive quantities of it daily in order for the effects to be similar to what they do in mice. So just be aware of that when you read a study, that sometimes it's, you'd have to consume a huge quantity of this on a daily basis in order for it to have the same effects. But once again, like we mentioned in the beginning, the only way for you to know if something bothers you is for you to try it out on yourself. See if it stalls your weight loss, it gives you any kind of undesirable side effects that you don't like. You could also use a glucometer and test.
So you could actually test each one of these and see how it affects your...
Yeah, you would eat the product and then you would wait like 30 minutes. Generally it's done on an empty stomach, and then you would test your blood sugar and see if it elevated it a lot or not at all. And it all depends on the person. Sometimes natural sweeteners can do it also. So it all depends on you and your body chemistry.
Sure.
So now we are going to discuss the natural sweeteners.
Okay. So
the first one that we can talk about is Truvia, because you can find Truvia in the grocery store. Additionally, you can find a lot of your natural sweeteners in the grocery store. I got an email saying that now Costco carries the
monk fruit.
Yes, the monk fruit erythritol in Costco now. So you know that low carb and ketogenic is big if they're starting to carry a bunch of keto foods in Costco.
It's a real thing.
Exactly.
Right.
So Truvia is basically erythritol and stevia, and this particular one does not have any binders in it. It is in a packet form, but it does not have any binders in it.
So how do you know it doesn't have any binders in it?
When you look at the ingredients, it says erythritol, stevia leaf extract, and natural flavors. So if it had a binder in it, it would say something like dextrose or something ending in trose is usually, or it will say some kind of starch. Sometimes it'll be like potato starch, rice starch.
Yeah.
It will say starch, something with starch.
Yeah, there was something that, I hate to say this, but there was something I used the other day that had a rice starch in it.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Sometimes supplements can have a rice starch.
In fact, I think it was a supplement. I think it was a quote-unquote keto supplement.
It's in such a small amount that it doesn't, if you're taking a pill and it's got rice starch in it, over the entire bottle you might have a teaspoon of rice starch. So it all depends on...
I do remember rice starch being in some supposed keto cleanse pills or something that I got off Amazon.
Right. So this one is a stevia and erythritol blend. Stevia comes from a leaf. And if you hand me the squeezy, the green squeezy, stevia. So stevia comes in different forms. It also comes in, the squeezy form. Sometimes there's drops. Sometimes it's flavored. And then sometimes it's also a hybrid between stevia and erythritol. And a lot of times they do that for taste purposes, because sometimes stevia can leave a bitter aftertaste in hot beverages. And then erythritol on the other side can sometimes leave a cooling effect. So sometimes they will hybridize the two to offset the bitterness and cooling.
The cooling.
So
yeah, as you mentioned, stevia is derived from a plant.
It was used by Native Americans for a long, long time before it became popular in our culture.
This article says it's shown to help lower blood pressure and level off blood sugars, making it a great way to flavor, boost your coffee. I know that I've done some research, like if you're fasting, I know some people have said that stevia would not break your fast if you use a small amount of it.
And then Dr. Fung says absolutely no stevia.
Yeah, so I don't know. It depends who you listen to.
Exactly.
I know I watched, I think it was Thomas DeLauer. He's saying stevia
okay
doesn't.
with stevia.
And
yeah,
like I
and
said,
he's usually pretty cut and dry
and then
when it
Dr.
comes to
Fung,
fasting.
like I said.
Yeah.
So, but stevia is an option, and we use it from time to time. I think we probably use more of the liquid.
The liquidy.
Yeah, we probably use
stevia
more
is
of
not
the
generally
liquid.
one that I reach for an awful lot, just because I personally have the ability to taste stevia's bitterness a lot, and some people taste it more than others.
Truvia, we've had that for a while. I'm not even sure. When
I think it came when I moved, because I had used it.
I don't know where it
Yeah,
came from, but
and I think it's just from Walmart. You can find
I know we got it from Walmart.
I know you can find it in a powdered product on the shelf, but you definitely need to make sure that you're looking at the ingredients, because sometimes, like I said, and that when it comes in a bag and it's powdered like that, sometimes they will add a binder.
Yeah, and we don't have any. So I want to go back to Splenda, because you mentioned the whole bag thing, Splenda and the bag.
Oh, I have a bag up there that was given to us. Okay.
We've already started, so we're not going to get it. But we have,
and it does have a certain amount of dextrose
we have
in it, so.
some Splenda in a bag, so you do need to kind of watch that.
Right.
Because although we just said Splenda is not supposed to have any effects on you.
Right. But you do need to choose the liquid form if you can, or like we order the one bound with lactose, because it reacts in your body more like a heavy whipping cream. The lactose is a milk sugar.
Have we ever done any Splenda in any product, any our recipes?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So mostly when it comes to using recipes, we use these upcoming products.
The natural sweeteners.
Yeah. So let's.
So let's talk about. I want to talk about that first, because at one time, if you look back at our videos, at one point we would say artificial sweeteners.
Yes, and I've tried to change that all to natural.
But I wanted to find out why you changed that, because you talked about this metamorphosis and people talking about it. And,
Well, I was corrected several times when I would say artificial sweetener, and then I would go to use a erythritol type product. So erythritol is an organic, naturally occurring sugar alcohol, and it's generally derived from birch trees and things like that. Most people prefer to make sure that they're getting their product from a non-GMO sourced thing, because sometimes...
I'm sorry, as Sarah's talking, I'm trying to find erythritol on this list. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Erythritol and its cousin, xylitol, are generally considered good in the fact that they help prevent tooth decay for some reason. Although we don't personally use xylitol, just because it's a little bit higher on the glycemic index. It's also a little bit touchier to work with, and if you have pets at home, it can be toxic to your pets. So we generally don't, because a lot of times if I make excess goodies or things like that, I will pass them on to my family members. My parents and my sister and brother-in-law both have dogs, and they let their dogs, lick their bowls or, finish things, and so it's generally not considered safe for pets. They would have to eat a pretty large amount for it to be toxic, but still most people with pets avoid xylitol.
And so xylitol is actually the one that's derived from the birch trees.
Yeah.
Erythritol is actually grapes. You can find traces in grapes, pears, melons, and even mushrooms. So I'm just.
So that's why they call it a natural sweeteners, because it's derived from whole foods, natural foods, and it's not made in like a lab or chemically cloned off of sugar.
And so when we first started keto, we used xylitol.
I did.
Yeah,
Yes,
I remember buying some.
And it did not affect me as far as weight loss or anything like that. And there are still a lot of large ketogenic names, people who are large in the ketogenic world and have podcasts and cookbooks and things like that do still prefer xylitol for themselves.
And it does have a glycemic index of
it does.
12, which is not really super high, but it does have.
And so you definitely, once again, would have to do self-testing and see how it affects you personally.
Right.
So the other thing that we wanted to discuss with the erythritol, here we have also the monk fruit style, and monk fruit is a fruit that comes from Southeast Asia, and it contains natural sweetness that is sweeter past sugar. So sometimes you can use less of a product like this than you would table sugar if you were like doing recipe to recipe. Mm-hmm. So, but they taste quite similar because they both have erythritol in them. The difference between the two that I'm showing you right now is this is a granular product, and so it looks like table sugar, granulated sugar, whereas this one is a confectioner's style or powdered sugar, if you will, and so it is much, much finer. And so a lot of times I will use this style product whenever I'm using something that is going to be in a liquid consistency, if I'm making candies or things that I want a real fine texture, then I usually will avoid, the granular, because sometimes the larger bits, you can taste it a little more in your baked goods, and sometimes I think the cooling effect is a little bit stronger in a granular product.
So now we had some, so I wanted to talk about the cooling effect. Sure. So we had you made some chocolate chip cookies, the same ones that are on our channel from a couple of weeks ago. Don't put them down yet. Okay. I want to keep talking about it. And then, and they were made with, so the Lily's chips were made with erythritol.
And Lily's have stevia in them as well.
Okay, and stevia. And I noticed, so this was probably like, so you made those on Friday.
We made a couple of days
we had
later.
some yesterday. We were like getting rid of them yesterday. And I was telling Sarah that, it was having the whole cooling thing.
For you.
For taste. And, I said, wow, they don't taste as good as they did when they were fresh. And then she suggested, well, if you heat them up, that might take care of it. And it actually did. I thought that was interesting. That
it softens the chocolate. I think it melts. It must melt some of the granular bits down just a little bit. Makes it smoother. That
was just something that we actually experienced yesterday. And we didn't. We're not talking about we had it. It was just maybe like 30,
a couple days.
40, no,
yeah. In the microwave was like 30 seconds.
30 or 40 seconds.
I mean, the chocolate chips weren't even entirely melted.
No. But it got rid of the cooling effect.
And it gave it just that nice, like you just took it out of the oven. I mean, you might have done that when you were eating the standard American diet with cookies too. Sometimes you pop them in the oven and it's like you just made them.
And this is totally off topic, but remember, we make a lot of, well, not a lot, but we make a lot of stuff with almond flour. I think it would also probably apply with coconut flour as well. That's these products that we're making. They're not having any fillers, and so you have to think about how long they're going to last. Preservatives in them.
Right.
And so those cookies, like I said, you made them Friday.
Yeah, it was just a couple of days.
It was a couple of days. Yeah. They still were fine, but that's just something to keep in mind when you make.
We had them covered, but not refrigerated.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like if you ever make any keto bread.
Refrigeration is good, or even freezing, especially if you're doing this by yourself.
Because it is a different.
Right, there are no preservatives.
There's no preservatives, so it's not going to last as long. Leave it out, it'll mold faster.
Right.
I'm not sure why I said that when we're talking about sweeteners, but anyway,
that's okay. It's a good tip.
It's just a tip, and.
So a couple of the newer products that we have experimented with in the last little while. This is one that I've been really enjoying, especially like I put this in the cookies too, is Sucrin Gold. And Sucrin Gold is a erythritol and stevia based product, and it has a little bit of malt flavoring in it, and some things like that to make it mimic brown sugar. So if you need something that is a brown sugar substitute, this is really good because it looks like brown sugar, it smells like brown sugar, it tastes like brown sugar, but it doesn't have molasses or anything like that typical brown sugar has in it to make it.
So this is just what, erythritol,
stevia, and some malt extract, and the malt colors it and gives it that slight molasses taste. Mm-hmm. So I've really been enjoying this, and any recipes that I hybridize from traditional standard American diet recipes that generally use a part white sugar, part brown sugar type base. And of course, if you were maybe making a brulee or something like that and you wanted to torch the top, a product like this would work very well for that. As would the product that I'm going to talk about next, and that one is allulose. Now, we purchased the allulose to use in our ice cream recipe because that was what was suggested to negate any cooling effect that you would have in a homemade ice cream recipe. And allulose is fairly new on the market. They only just discovered it in 1994. And it's very recent in that it was having some labeling issues.
Yeah, so the FDA just, like within the last month or two, just got through, basically the issue with the labels was whether or not, so manufacturers, when they use the product, do they have to count it as basically as sugar?
Right, and so the way it was labeled was confusing people who were trying to use it for low carb or diabetic purposes.
Right.
So, and allulose does come from sugar. It's what they call a rare sugar, using my air quotes. And it is pretty much about 70% of the sweetness of sugar.
Right, so it's not as sweet as
Right,
sugar.
but it's not metabolized by your body, even though it is made from the same things that sugar is made from. It tends to pass through your body undigested or not, causing a glycemic impact in it. And it's found in nature, in fruit and things like that. It does have its basis in sucrose and fructose, so it is a natural sugar, but it just reacts in your body differently. And
And again,
it's interesting. They make it in syrups and things like that too. A lot of the allulose syrups and things like that are also very popular, and it does have a certain amount of fiber in it. So sometimes people find that it digests well for them.
Yeah, and it actually says on the bag, says allulose is a rare sugar, that you just said that. It's very different than regular sugar, but up to 100% of it passes through your body without being metabolized.
So it's
it has almost
theoretically
zero calories and doesn't affect your blood. I'm sorry, it doesn't affect your body like sugar, like regular sugar.
Right.
Allulose is found in many natural fruits. That's what how they advertise it right on the bag itself. Now, when you look at natural sweeteners, so if you were to look at the back of it,
reading the label.
if you're reading the label, you'll see. So this is the sucrangol. You'll see carbs, total carbs, 8 grams.
And that will say total sugar's nothing.
Right, and then you see the erythritol at 8. So the way that's supposed to work when you use these products is that you can subtract the erythritol from the carbs.
Right, and in here it's allulose, so it's 4 carbs and then 4 carbs of allulose. So theoretically you subtract that. As far as sugar alcohols, it's the same with your Splenda type product. This one happens to have 0.
Right, so. and this is the sucrangol. As far as calories, it's 0.
Right, and then on this one it's 3 carbs and it's 3 erythritol. So you're supposed to subtract that. Now, when you're dealing with a candy bar type product, sometimes there's a certain amount of carbs, and then it's your sugar alcohols or your erythritol or your stevia.
Do we have candy bar?
Yeah,
I'll
there.
get one.
And then you also have the fiber in that because it's made with cacao. It's a chocolate product. So say like a Lily's candy bar. On the back it has total carbs of 22 and then fiber of 12. So then that brings you down to 10. And then your erythritol is 7. So then you're left with 3 carbs for whatever the serving size of the bar is. So that is how you would remove the natural sweeteners from your overall carb.
Right. And when we make a recipe, we do all that calculating with the macros.
You do all that calculation.
Well, that's fine. me, it doesn't matter. I'm not keeping score.
It's a job.
I'm not keeping score.
Yes, but sometimes it's difficult.
But we do all that with, when we are calculating the
overall
macro,
net carbs.
Right, for whatever, whether it's whether it's a casserole or a cake or whatever, we do that and we factor in all those things as we're doing that. So again, I'll put a link to this article from Eat This Not That. There was also an article we found on allulose.
And then the way that the FDA is
And the way the
talking about
FDA
it.
is talking about that, because that is a fairly
It's quite
new product. But I think what'll happen with allulose is now you might actually start seeing it in more products.
because they have made this
you
disclaimer
might
that
see
it's
it
not
more used
like regular sugar.
Yeah, you see it more widely used in products, and who knows what it might be able to replace.
Right.
Maybe it can. It's 70% sweeter.
It's not as sweet as sugar.
So yeah, who knows
Right.
what it can replace. And I guess I would say that if you're a person who is pretty, insulin sensitive, you have to really, any of this might cause an issue for you, and it's just, and it's unfortunate. It just might be the way your body
And
is.
it probably depends on the severity of your metabolic resistance.
Right, and so, but we live keto as a lifestyle. We use these products. We try to give people options for.
Because we still do occasionally like something sweet, like the back of this allulose bag says, "Eat cake." Because it's somebody's birthday somewhere. And it's true.
Yeah.
There are certain occasions where you might want to indulge in something sweet, but still not derail yourself from this lifestyle.
Yeah, and so
that's what.
So again, you've got to kind of figure out. I'll just say this. I know the folks over at Keto Connect actually did an experiment where they used a lot of these products
on themselves, yes.
And did their blood glucose. I can find that and link to it.
It's quite interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. And so that can get more into maybe the science side.
I know that the two keto dudes did it as well. And found out which particular sweeteners.
Yeah.
Like Carl Franklin has absolutely no problem with xylitol, but it really made Richard Morris not do well. But Richard Morris did great with Splenda. So it once again, like we brought out in the beginning, it is totally a personal thing, and you're going to have to kind of experiment and find out for yourself what works for you and what doesn't.
Right. So I think that is all we wanted to cover with this. Hopefully we've given you some ideas of things to use.
Maybe some things you hadn't heard of that you might be interested in.
We use.
Most of these are in our Amazon favorites if you can't find it locally.
I think one of our subscribers actually turned us on to Super and Gold.
Yes,
somebody
actually asked us about
it. We had never heard of it before.
And I decided to try it, and I love it.
We discovered it. So most of these products, a lot of especially the bags of the natural stuff, we get probably most of these on Amazon.
Right. It is still difficult.
We find that it's probably one of the best as far as costs.
Yes, definitely.
Although
because there's generic brands too, and that's helpful.
There's generic brands.
We like them.
Brands.
Like we order the So Nourished a lot.
Right, we are the So Nourished brand versus the Swerve.
Because generally you can get more like 16 ounces instead of 12 for the same amount or less.
Versus the Swerve brand.
And I've been very happy with.
Yeah, and so we do. That's how we get a lot of it. Right. Again, I think we mentioned this earlier. We just saw Lancato monk fruit, the erythritol at Costco. We saw that. So
you can find all the squeezy sweeteners and things just at the grocery store. A lot of stores have their own brand even of them, so you can always find those there. You can find the Truvia on the grocery store shelves. Once again, check the fillers.
Right.
So most of those, and you can sometimes find Swerve locally also, which is the brand name of Erythritol.
For Erythritol, right. But you'll find in our videos we kind of prefer the So Nourished.
Just because it's a better value.
It's a better value. That's all. We don't have anything against Swerve.
No, it's just a better value for us.
And because we use so much of it, value
in preparation.
Is very important. If we could get bigger bags, we would certainly be getting bigger bags if we could buy bigger bags. So anyway, that is our keto conversation for tonight. Hopefully this has been helpful for somebody. We do these keto conversations every Wednesday, and where we talk about keto topics and just things that are about the keto lifestyle. So if you happened upon this channel, which a lot of people do, that's what this is all about tonight. We do new recipes every Sunday. We are trying to get consistent with the What I Eat videos.
It's a learning process.
It's a learning process from us. And so we're trying to get that on a consistent basis together. We kind of incorporate that together, so that's something that's coming as well because people find that of interest. If you're new here, consider subscribing. We are all about trying to help you be successful in your keto journey. That's what this whole thing is for. That's what we do.
And stay sweet.
Right? That's funny. Stay sweet. So anyway, thanks for joining us. We hope that you have a good rest of the week, and we will talk at you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace. The microphone wasn't on. That's a joke.